Hey, what's going on, everyone? Vega here for SerpentX Tech, and today we're taking a quick look at Rainbow Miner. The full audit will be on the Yeti.uk website. But basically, it's been developed or collaborated on over the years and really kind of cleaned up and optimized with various contributors. The latest version is 4.9.0.0. I'm sure there will be more updates as it moves towards the future. And it's a profit switching miner that allows you to set up or configure different pools, not just NiceHash, not just Mining Pool Hub, but a whole bunch of different pools. Runs a lot of scripts on Windows. It runs through PowerShell, which we're focusing on the Windows version right now. Linux we might get to a little bit later, but very easy to set up. It's actually a step-by-step guide, and one of the prerequisites is PowerShell 7. There is a newer version, 7.2.13. Originally, when I played around with it, I didn't install that version, but I would recommend doing it as well. And I already had .NET Framework 4.7.2 or later already installed because I use AwesomeMiner and a number of other applications that require .NET Framework. GPU drivers, if you're running NVIDIA system, I will agree with the statement here. Basically, when you run the latest and greatest NVIDIA or AMD drivers, you might actually have issues compared to running an older version. But I played around with the miner for a little bit on a remote system, and I did see some NVIDIA driver issues or crashes, but just the recommendation here is 512 or 47.41, and then if you're running AMD GPUs, you might have trouble running or kind of tuning the overclocks for these GPUs if you're in a Windows system. So I recommend using MSI Afterburner with the different profiles you set up, 1 through 5. You can set it up that way, but very unique, neat, right? It's an opportunity to use something else other than AwesomeMiner, which is Windows, or Hivon, which is a Linux-based mining operating system. It got all the testing results, all the data. Besides some script-based attacks that could happen, I doubt they will, especially locally if you configure it and set it up how you're supposed to. But just stay tuned for the full audit. I'll post that down in the description as soon as I can. But it's an extractable file or a bunch of files, right? You can see all the batch commands, all the shell commands, all the various files here that just talk to each other, right? It has all the various miners out there, a lot of them actually, CPU, opt miner, LOL miner, MB miner, and I'm sure as miner devs for say 1.0 miner comes out with an update, that it will be able to call to that latest revision and update it accordingly. But it's a bunch of scripts in this container or in this compiled version. And to start it, all we got to do is go to Start, right click, Run as Administrator, and it's actually going to go through the setup process, and you just follow it step by step. There are some things that it's going to ask you for, like Bitcoin address or NiceHash wallet address, virtual paging file. You can see that's not set to the recommended size. All you got to do is right click your PC if you're on Windows 10, go to Advanced System Settings, Advanced Performance Settings, and under the Advanced tab, hit Change for Virtual Memory and set that to whatever you want. It might fight you or complain that it doesn't like your current setup, but I just leave it the way I have it and have no problem. And now it wants us to go ahead and go through the process. What do we want to name the worker? Select the operation. Is this going to be a standalone device, server, or client? So I would recommend setting up one device. So I probably would use the NAS as the server and then set up every other device as a client. And then manage everything through my local IP :4000. In this case, we're just going to choose standalone. So if we hit enter, it's just going to be the default standalone. And it's going to walk us through the on this machine, IP address :4000. On most machines, it will be the desktop name, whatever the name of your desktop is, :4000, or you can use the IP of the machine, so on and so forth. So if we leave it default, and you can change the port if you want to. The API communication port is 4000 by default, but you can change that to whatever you want. Let's say 1337 for all my OGs that know what that is. And then do you want to enable API in your network? Default is yes. We're going to leave that alone. All right, okay, remote access to your API now. Now we need to set up a username and password. Do not share this with anybody. keep it to yourself and be, obviously be mindful of who's around you as you set this particular miner up. But just give it a good username and a good password to help secure your connection or management of said miner or devices. And after you set up your username and password, it's going to ask you to enter a number of possible parallel API threads. Automatic is 0. I'm just going to leave it on the default 0. And then it says lock config files so that they cannot be changed via API localhost. So if there was any malicious intent, maybe somebody compromised your network, do you want to leave it locked? Yes or no? Default is no. We're just going to leave it the default for now. Maximum number of failed login attempts until IP is blocked. 0 is turned off. Default is 3, so 3 attempts and it will be locked. Same thing. It's just going to continue to go through the security parameters. Enter lifespan, like how long do you want to block them for? Default is 30. You can set 1 hour, so on and so forth. And then we can enter the IP that we exclusively want to allow access to this API. So localhost, if you have a server or a machine or a number of machines, and with CMD IP config, we can get the localhost address that we want to have exclusive access or access whitelisted to manage this device. Now it's asking for our BTC wallet. The BTC wallet, you can use an external. Do not confuse this with your NiceHash address. But just a heads up, like Zpool, Zergpool, I can use the same Bitcoin address if I really wanted to add here. And you do have the option to not use auto exchange if you don't want to. You just leave it empty or enter clear to make it empty and press return. In this case, we're just gonna use our Bitcoin address, and we're also going to leave it as our NiceHash address. They're one and the same. A real quick side note, if you choose NiceHash, you're going to get to a point where it's going to ask for an API key. Like if you want the Rainbow miner to be able to see your wallet balance, it's going to ask for an API key. You just need to go into your settings of your NiceHash account and go to the API keys under org settings or organization settings and give it a name and turn on wallet permissions. Whitelist is what I would recommend, the IP for your connection. And then you can adjust, the daily withdrawal limit, so on and so forth, generate that key, and then follow the setup process inside a Rainbow Miner and continue on with the rest. Now, do you want to add or edit wallet address for non-BTC currencies? And you can see here, enter XMR from narrow, E for eHash, so on and so forth. So use the ticker of the currencies you do want to, earn, so to speak. In this case, we can just leave it as no by default, so no. And then now it's going to ask us for our Mining Hub username. You want to go find out what this is. If you don't know what your Mining Hub information is, you can actually go to the website and edit your account. And under edit account, I'm not going to show it to you, but under edit account, you will have your email, your username, your user ID, and then your API. You're going to need all that information for the next part here. You can see now it's asking for the user ID. That's again going to be right below your name on that edit account page on Mining Hub. And then it's asking for the API key, again, same page, right below your user ID. Now it asks, do we plan on using mining rig rentals? You got to register an account, set up a username, all that good stuff. We could just not use it at all, which is what I'm going to do. It says leave empty to disable mining rig rentals, or we can always activate it later. So we're just going to hit enter. There we go. Now we need to choose the region. In my case, I'm going to choose US East. And then enter all currencies to be displayed. Default is Bitcoin and USD. We're just going to leave it on default. And now it's going to say what type of benchmark we want to do. Similar to what we saw with Awesome Miner, right? Do we want quick, 60 seconds, normal, 90 seconds, precise, 180 seconds? I'm just going to leave it on, I'm going to put it on quick for now. If you have a large rig or mining farm, probably quick is going to be the best. If you only got a couple GPUs, do normal. And then enable fast lane benchmarking, download live values for hash rate, power draw, very accurate, yes or no. Default is no. We're just going to leave it on that. And do we want to enable central monitoring, yes or no? Now, central monitoring, if we hit yes, we need to get something. a particular ID that I can't show you once it's generated, but you're going to enter the monitoring URL, which is actually on the rbminer.net, at least right now. I'm not sure if there's any more besides that. So if we hit enter, it's just going to go with the default. And then we need to enter the miner monitoring status key. If we don't have one, we need to type in new, and then it's going to give you that key. Hang on to that key. All right, so I just got the key. Obviously don't want to share it with you guys, but now just store it, save it, make sure it's in a secure location, because if you go to the miner.net website and go to Monitoring Central in the top right, you can put that key right here and click View Workers to monitor it remotely. Now it's going to ask us, do we want to enable online notification, offline notifications, like our rig just went offline? We want to give it an email of your choice. If not, leave it empty. Then you won't get a notification when the rig is offline. We can also enter our pushover.net user key. I'm just going to leave it empty. We can enter the max GPU temp. If it rises below, above a certain value, it would trigger a warning or notification. Default is 90. That's fine for this case. Some GPUs, everybody performs a little bit differently. How many times is it allowed to crash per hour before it sends a notification? Default is 5 crashes. If we're running out of disk space, it will send us notification. And do we want to enable automatic updates? Default is yes. Do we want to allow automatically add new algorithms and config TXT? Yes. So what that means is when new algos come out and Rainbow Miner is updated by the devs, it will do a benchmark of that. And we can tell it, do we want to just benchmark the new algos only or just the updated? And we're just going to choose just the updated. So I'm just hitting enter on a few of these. Profit files will not be updated if the actual value is above the average profit X this factor. And then default is 0. You could do, I believe, like 1 or 2 or 3. I think it doesn't do decimals. I have to look up on that, but there is plenty of documentation on Rainbow Miner. And you can see now we can choose the pools that we want to mine on. Mining Pool Hub, NiceHash, Zerg Pool, Z Pool. All of these pools there's so many pools. You're going to want to go through each one. If anything, what I would recommend doing is copy all the pools to a notepad and then remove the ones you don't want. They need to be separated by a comma to indicate each individual pool. So go through that right now and set up the pools or select the pools you want. All right, I made my lists. Now I'm just going to copy it off of my notepad and put it in here. Default, it chooses Mining Pool Hub Coin, Zerg Pool, Z Pool. Does choose that by default. So if you just want to leave it on that, you can. But I'm going to choose some other stuff here and hit enter. And now, do we want to skip the miner and algorithm setup? By default, it says yes. Our default for miners and algorithms give you a good start. If you want, you can skip the settings for now. So it's telling us to skip it, but I'm just going to go with the default. Do you want to mine all Nvidia GPUs? You can specify that or maybe exclude some GPUs. Default's yes. Do you want to mine on your CPU? Default's no. And then do you want to change values? Yes or no. So we want to save to our configuration file. So hit enter. And now it's going to go through the actual benchmarking process. It's going to take some time, even on quick, especially if you get a lot of GPUs. Just be patient. Let it go through its process, so on and so forth. And then once that's done, we can manage it via HTML. And while this video was primarily about the fact that we audited the software and the basic overview of it on Windows, I do want to advise that there's a lot of customization that one could do. We can set, as you can see here, there's E for energy costs. We can set OC profiles either directly for NVIDIA or through MSI Afterburner. There's scheduler. There's all kinds of stuff. The HTML will probably make your life a little bit easier rather than the command line interface. But now it just tells us that we have completed the setup process. To continue, just want to hit exit. So if we actually hit enter, it's going to go through the rest of its process, save that configuration file, and go through the benchmark. It's neat. I personally like it. I would advise everybody to, play around with it, check it out on a dedicated rig system, whatever it might be. I didn't find anything malicious. or malicious script or code within it. But because it's calling to outside sources, like all the various miners that are out there, and using HTML to kind of, create the dashboard, which we can go to now by going to the IP or some of the other options like localhost and the port number you set up, and putting in the username and password that you chose during the actual process or the setup process. We can load up this HTML and monitor everything. I don't see why somebody will go out of their way to maliciously try to attack you unless you paint a target on your back. But as long as your network's secure and you yourself are not compromised, I don't see a problem with the scripts that could be, exploited, so to speak. Additionally, with the mining monitoring central through the actual rbminer.net, we can see, our rig on here. We could expand upon it, see what it's hashing on, what it's testing, stuff like that. So not only through the user interface by, localhost or the IP, but the monitoring central, we can manage the rig. So very neat, nice little project, but I'll let you make your own decision. Play around with it, test it out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But it's good to go. I didn't find anything of risk or of note to present to you. But do me a favor on the way out, hit the like button, make sure to get subscribed, hit the notification bell to stay up to date, as well as check out some of the links in the description that help support the channel and what we do here. And I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.